Hello, everyone. Welcome to Guys Unstructured, where we talk about everything. So let's get right into today's topic. Aristo, what's happening with Epic Games, Apple, Google? What's the story?
Oh man, that seems to really have taken off. Let me go back a little bit, right? So let me see if you can, let me know if you can see my
Yep,
screen,
I can
right?
see your screen.
So 2 days back, Epic Games basically drops a new bundle called Mega Drop,
Mhm.
right? For the mobile game called Fortnite, right? So what they basically do is they say if you do not buy the stuff that you need to enhance your skills in Fortnite, right? Which is in-app purchases on iOS. If you buy it from Apple, you pay $10. If you buy it directly from Epic Games, direct payment, you pay only $8, right? You can see the screen.
Yep.
Now, what it means is that for every purchase that you make on iOS, right, Apple takes a cut of 30%,
Mm-hmm.
right? Similar to Google as well. It has been there. It's been the policy since the Apple Store came out or App Store came out 10 years back. But this completely took off because Fortnite is a very widely played game, launched approximately 2 years back, 2018, iOS first, then it went to Android, uh, and then it has a very loyal fan base, right? Now, Apple took notice because people started noticing that, hey, Epic Games is promoting off the platform buy, right? And then Apple takes a bold move and removes Fortnite completely, bans it from App Store.
Wow.
Now, it would be all right, but then what is interesting is the moment App Store pulls the game down, Epic Game files a lawsuit against Apple instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So 100% they banned it.
Yeah. So another thing, just from my reading, is that so they've also had a massive social media campaign presenting Apple as, I guess, a monopoly, as an evil dictator, um, competing or taking money from the poor folks, right?
Oh,
So do you think this is completely pre-planned and they wanted this to happen?
100%. Like immediately you see the date, right? 13th August, 2 days back.
Yeah.
So the moment Apple takes it down, Epic Games takes a U-turn on Apple, mimics their own ad from 1984.
Anniversary of the platform unification directives. For years they have given us their sons, their labor, their dreams. In exchange, we have taken our tribute, our profits, our control. This power is ours and ours alone. We shall prevail.
You
Wow.
see what they did there? So
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
used Apple's 1984 campaign and played it against them, which is famous George Orwell's book 1984 as well.
This is, they said 1 billion users.
Yeah, 100%.
Oof.
So actually the funny thing is
Mhm.
if you look at iOS revenue, right, for Fortnite, we don't have a current estimate because it's not public. But in March 2018, when they launched, and exactly an year after it, they were assumed to have made $500 million in revenue just from iOS. So
Wow.
Fortnite definitely is in multi-billion dollar revenue.
Wow. So when you say, when you're showing me 500 million in revenue, um, which means 30% of that is for Apple.
Exactly. Exactly. It has
Wow.
been like that. So funny thing is, like, you would not believe it. So interestingly, when Fortnite launched, right? Fortnite was a iOS first launch,
Yeah.
right? But when what they did initially with Android was they never listed themselves on Android, Google Play Store, right? So a lot of early Android users for Fortnite were doing side loading because they didn't want to pay the 30% to Google as well, right?
Hmm.
But the only thing I think that makes Google different is that, hey, you can have multiple Play Stores, right? So you have Samsung's one, you have Xiaomi, which has its own, Amazon has an Amazon, Android App Store and stuff like that. So it's probably not that crucial for Google, but Apple has a monopoly on App Store, right? So if you want to run an app on your iPhone, no matter what version of the iPhone is, it has to come through App Store,
So
and
what does this
Apple will
mean?
get it.
So if someone has the game now, they can continue to play it, but I'm guessing they cannot make any payments, different levels, etc., because the new version or nothing of that sort is enabled.
Yes, I think like not really. So if you have the game existing on the device, right, you can continue playing it,
Mm.
but then you cannot update the app at all. Like
Yeah,
Apple cannot forcefully remove the apps from your device,
yeah.
but it can remove the game from you to getting a new game.
But tell me, man. So I keep thinking of this as Epic Games. They know Apple has this policy for everyone, right?
Yes.
And but isn't this the basic cost of having your app in a in almost like a distribution market where people come to find your app? And also, isn't this the cost you pay for, I guess, the software development, the security, everything that you get from being in the app store? So in that sense, isn't it okay for Apple to charge that much? And I mean, I'm not talking about the percentage itself, but to charge a value for you to be in the app or in the app store, right? And again, if it was free, it would be free as well, right? To be in the app store, it's only during payment. So why the issue?
So I think there are a couple of things to it. Like, so yes, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is when Microsoft was a very big deal back in the days, right? They had an antitrust lawsuit against them for Internet Explorer and being a what is the best word for it? Being a monopoly in the market. So the ruling against them said that hey, PC is such a utilitarian thing, right? That you cannot have a monopoly on it, right? Now imagine our lives, right? Our lives work through a mobile phone. Like you cannot have a better utility in your life to run your life than a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So it should ideally apply there as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is not the only case Apple has had recently, right? So there's a huge change coming up with iOS 14 in terms of how Apple handles advertising. Apple has never had an share of advertising business. So the two point of views, the two POVs basically, one saying, hey, Apple is being user-centric first, and second point of view is that they're trying to kill in-app advertising, because if in-app advertising does not lead anywhere, people will go to in-app purchases and they get 30% cut out of it.
Mm.
Right? And this is not the first case as well. Like very recently, actually within this year, there have been multiple cases. Well, we are in those uncertain circumstances because of COVID. So there's a company called ClassPass, right? So they allow you to do your workout classes, right?
Gym
They used to
passes, okay.
conduct they used to do it offline, but because of COVID, what they did was they moved it online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the moment they moved it online, Apple was like, hey, you're violating our policies. You need to pay us a cut because you're actually making money off the virtual classes, right? I think I have probably the language that we'll use somewhere. Yeah, like look at this one, right? If you can see the screen.
Yeah.
ClassPass built its business on helping people book classes at local gyms, right? When the pandemic forced gyms across the United States to close, the company shifted to virtual classes. Then ClassPass received a concerning message from Apple because the classes it sold on iPhone were now virtual. Apple said it was entitled to 30% fee from the sales, right?
Mm.
Now, Epic Games, I get it, right? It's a big company. Tencent
Yeah.
has a lot of money into the company.
Yeah.
It's in billions of dollars. But there's so many other startups that would rely on App Store to make themselves money, be it in-app purchases or in-app advertising. It's a big hit. Like, for example, another case I'll tell you is Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
That Apple also pointed out during their hearing that Airbnb has never paid Apple any money despite the fact that it built its multi-billion-dollar business with the
Very
help
true.
of
Very
iPhone,
true. Yeah.
right?
Huh.
But then iPhone is just a way for you to book. Like it's the web. Like imagine Google Chrome charging you 30% of the cut just because you bought from Amazon,
Yeah.
right? That's not fair.
Yeah.
That shouldn't work. Like that's like you just try to get a cut out of nothing that you did, right?
It's tricky, huh?
Yeah,
What is your view? To segue into something you just mentioned, right? You mentioned Tencent. A lot of
yeah.
people are saying they own 40% of Epic Games. Is this one of those hidden strategies to knock Apple down so they could come into the market with their own app store? What is your views on that?
Well, so Tencent already has a store, by the way, in China,
Yeah,
right? So it's not that, and China is a big economy, right?
yeah,
So I've read a lot of stuff about as well that hey, Tencent owns the majority of Epic Games, right? Not majority, at least 40%,
40%. Yeah,
right? Right, and then there are also rumors that Spotify actually majority of the investment, approximately at the tune of 10%, is Tencent. And Spotify has had problems with Apple as well in the past
correct. Yeah,
about in-app purchases because they were like, hey, you are a subscription business, right? You pay us a cut because people buy on iPhone. That position, like I'll come back to your question again, right?
yeah.
But that the Spotify case becomes even more problematic because assume Apple has their own app called Apple Music,
Yeah,
right? And Spotify is the biggest player in the market. So
correct.
you're basically paying your competitor to let your business survive, right? Which is a very, very tricky position.
Yeah,
But anyway, having said that, let's go back to Tencent. So honestly, I don't think it's got anything to do with US-China war,
yeah,
right? Like, I don't think business sees any boundaries till the time Trump came along,
yeah.
and probably a bunch of other countries came along with compared to TikTok and WeChat. Like capitalism allows businesses to thrive, and I think that is happening. I don't think it's got anything to do with China. I think it's just that people are frustrated with a lot of stuff that Apple has been doing, right? Like
So
having said that, like Google Store also kicked out Fortnite,
correct.
but then on any Android phone from the start, right, you can always sideload apps. All you need is an APK file, and you can absolutely run it. With Epic Games being such a big brand, they could easily host the APK file on their website, right, or on their own cloud service, and anybody could download it.
Okay. So what's your position? Like, as I mentioned, right, earlier, every platform has a fee associated with it. If you want to, let's say, publish or put up your work, and we're talking about even Amazon, I don't know, Xbox, Microsoft, Nintendo. So do you think these are also, they also have monopolistic tendencies, or Apple's a beast on its own because of the app store device conundrum, the tie-up over there?
I think that's how both the ecosystems are defined, right? So it's again Apple's approach always that, hey, we know what's best for the users, and we tightly control the environments that you're in, right? Similar to Mac, similar to iPhone, right? Versus Android, which is like, hey, which is more of a Windows model that hey, you get your own hardware. Android is powerful enough to support you, right? So I think both of them have their advantages, but then like I think in normal world it would be fine because Apple's policies have been like that for 10 years. But considering like the world is going through a very tough time, right? We're in the
Yeah.
middle of recession across the world. Small businesses are dying, right? Mega corporations actually have done a good job, right? They've acquired companies for much cheaper, they've acquired talent for much cheaper, right? It's the small businesses that are going down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So remove the Epic Games as the contender. But if something good's out of the law case, like of the lawsuit that Epic Games does, right? I think it would really benefit small businesses, right? They
What is your position on this? I mean, I am assuming Apple's legal team are quite smart. They prepared for this. They know this. They've seen this zillions of times, right? They know exactly what they need to do. And people say Apple will still live on. Fortnite, we don't know, right? So in this case, even though there's a lot of social media movement behind it, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the story will develop to see some traction in terms of Apple changing rules, or it's the same old story, maybe a fine, but still remains the same?
It's very difficult to say, but I think we've not seen the end of it yet. I think it's just the starting, right? Assume iOS 14 hits the floor in another month, right? Tim Cook himself in his hearing very recently said 84% of my app store or apps on the app store are free for the users,
Mm-hmm.
right? iOS 14 hits the floor. It clearly calls out that, hey, you as a user, do you want to be tracked across the apps?
Hmm.
Right? Which basically means that you get very highly personalized targeted advertising,
Yeah.
which to be honest is not so bad for the consumers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because hey, you get access to the content free, right?
Yeah.
If iOS 14 happens, a lot of people opt out, right? Because it's unfair for us to say that hey, normal people will understand what it means for publishers or for users themselves, right? So a lot of people end up opting out. Market would move to in-app purchases. A lot of content which people use for free, like even for hyper casual games like Sudokus of the world and Scrabbles of the world, where there's so many variants available.
Yeah.
In-app advertising goes away, they would not be able to monetize their apps. That would basically mean the market would become a very top-heavy business, right? Where the only big developers or established developers would be able to turn out
Yeah, isn't
apps.
that just bad for, in terms of creating competition across the board?
It is 100%. And like the funny thing is that the way so Apple has a small chunk of advertising business, right?
Yeah.
Where you can choose to advertise on the app store to to drive installs for the app.
Yeah.
Right? Now their own control that they're introducing for the rest of the world does not come under that. That is a separate control altogether. So users will still be able to see their own ads and stuff, which is basically Apple saying that hey, we know what's best for the users and we'll stick to it. So yeah, it is 100% like advertising industry is multi-billion-dollar industry. A lot of mobile app ecosystem is works around in-app advertising, like especially games, right? Games
Mhm.
are a big chunk of it,
Yeah.
right? And that's why we hear like Twitter is probably thinking of moving to a subscription business. I don't know if Facebook could do that way or go that route, but we'll have to figure out. But it's gonna be a hit, 100%. It's gonna impact them like a lot. So I think like moving back to the point, right? So I think this is the start of that war.
Mm-hmm.
Assume a lot of smaller publishers to join forces with Epic and back them up because
Yeah.
that's the route they want to take.
So actually, so this could be a good thing if there's a lot of pushback for Apple because of this, right? I guess Epic Games has the financial muscle to do this, which actually helps everyone down the chain.
Yeah, 100%. Like imagine Epic Games, Airbnb, Spotify all join forces. Small publishers ride the wave as well. And Apple just like, if you heard the FTC hearing that Tim Cook appeared in front of the senators like a couple of weeks back, all the questions were about app stores and it being a monopoly, right?
Yeah.
And being an anti-competitive behavior. So I think the sentiments are already there. It could just fuel them completely.
Yeah.
So 100%, I think like I'm gonna sit tight, keep popcorns on my side, and wait for this to unroll for next 1 month. And let's see.
Last question. Is there a difference between the states and I know the EU, they have like tighter antitrust laws.
Yeah.
Does this affect those laws or anything to do in the EU for Apple? Or because I know the suits were actually, the cases were filed in Northern California.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of those suits are primarily user driven in terms of the privacy and data usage. But
Got it.
there would be a lot of anti-competition stuff happening across the world. Like assume it to
Interesting.
happen. Like US for sure, EU as well. Like UK has a very tight law as well. So I think like assume that to happen.
Okay, man. So I guess we'll sit tight and watch what happens, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like I don't think this is the end of it. Like I think we'll probably have to follow this up with another conversation. But
okay.
let's see how this unfolds.
Okay. Very nice. think that's it for now then. Let's see. The story will develop for sure. We'll keep giving you our insights and commentary as it develops. But for now, Aristo and Parvez signing out. So adios and stay blessed.
Cheers.